What's going on? I hope you guys are having a good day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And today we're going to talk about Ed Reed. Ed Reed is a guy who was a former NFL player, one of the great defensive backs of all time. He's right up there, right a notch below prime time in terms of impact. You know, a Pro Bowler on multiple occasions. And Ed has had some interesting issues with the HBCU that hired him, Bethune-Cookman. And from what I understand, Bethune-Cookman gave him the axe, and Ed ain't taking it well. Ed was getting sturdy and crazy on Instagram and doing this thing. And so to break us in on this, I wanted to bring the king of HBCU sports, Mr. Jeff Lightsy Jr. in the building. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, Dr. Boyce. I'm doing good. This is interesting to say the least. That's all I can say. This is very, very interesting.
Okay, so I'm going to let you, as everybody comes in, and by the way, everybody, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And actually, I want to ask everybody, give me a yes in the chat if you followed what was going on with Ed Reed and the whole situation with him and Bethune-Cookman. If you saw that, I want to get a sense of how many of you have been sort of following along with this today. It's really, really interesting. So let's start from the beginning, man. So Jeff, you follow a lot of this stuff very closely.
Yes.
What's going on with Ed Reed and what happened? Some people in the chat are even saying that he was never hired by Bethune-Cookman, but was he hired as a football coach?
So let's answer that. Ed Reed never signed a contract. So, Dr. Boyce, you've done a bunch of deals in your life. You've been presented a bunch of contracts, and a lot of times you've agreed to principle, but hadn't put pen to paper. So Ed had agreed in principle to be the next head coach of Bethune-Cookman, but never actually signed the contract to be the next head coach. But albeit he never signed it, he was still in works as if he was the head coach. He was still hosting recruiting visits. He was still in the office. He was still around campus. He was still there in Daytona Beach. And so let's backtrack. For those who don't have any clue, if you have no idea what's going on, Ed Reed, like Dr. Boyce so eloquently said, is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest football players to ever play the game. He was one of my favorite players growing up. Most of the kids that are in college right now play with Ed Reed on Madden. That's how recently it was. He's inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I think, in 2019. So it's very recent, very recent. He's still a younger man. He has never been a head coach, never really coached for real, but he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And in HBCU last year, there were reports that Grambling offered Ed Reed a job, and he turned it down. Ed Reed, a lot of people associate him with Florida, Miami. He's actually from Louisiana. So there's the Louisiana connection with Grambling. They offered him the job. From the intel that I gathered, he turned it down last year. This year, it comes around. Bethune-Cookman has a head coaching opening. Bethune-Cookman's in the state of Florida. Bethune-Cookman's on Daytona Beach. Ed Reed, like I said, still lives in Florida, worked for the University of Miami, was an All-American college football Hall of Famer at the University of Miami. He has all the Miami, Florida connections. He agreed to principle to become the next head coach of Bethune-Cookman. He gets there. Now, I don't know if he got there sight unseen. I don't know if it was in worse condition than he expected. But when he gets there, the conditions aren't up to his standard. You got to remember, this is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. His standards are pretty high. You know what I mean? This is College Football Hall of Famer. Standards are pretty high. But it wasn't even the fact that he said it, not just being up to standard. He said it was just trash everywhere. And so he got on his Instagram Live the first time and said, basically, the administration's holding the university back. Essentially, he called out his own administration and said he had been there a week and a half and had done more than a lot of folks at Bethune had done in years. That was his exact words, quote. So that was one thing. Got some backlash from that, but then some folks was like, shoot, he probably has. It is Ed Reed. Once again, contract still not signed this whole time. You got to keep that in mind. And so he does, after that one goes, and it makes his ways around social media, as everything does. Ed felt a certain kind of way about some of the trolls that were on his post, and they kind of like troll him. Now, we're both on this, internet space. We know how trolls can be. They can just be ignorant. They can say some really nasty things, and Ed wasn't feeling it. Ed was like, yo, man, F y'all MFers. This is when I got here, my office was still dirty. There was trash all over the campus. Me and the football team had to go around picking up trash. And he kind of really bashed. Now, the first thing was like an appetizer. That second Instagram Live was like a full course meal. 3-course. You know what I mean? He came real at me. Like, came real talking real crazy about Bethune-Cookman and talking about all the trash that was around the campus. And it wasn't very professional. And even I said, like, yo, Ed, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. It's just the way you went about it was the wrong way. And so because of that, obviously he got a boatload of backlash after that one. But he got a lot of staunch support too. You know, a lot of the HBCU crowd was giving him the backlash, but the general public was supporting him because he's Ed Reed. You know what I mean? And Ed Reed, if you just want to talk about his career, he wasn't a guy that spoke a whole lot. He wasn't a guy that was like me, put the cameras in front of me. There's a lot of people throughout the history of sports that are like that. Ed Reed wasn't one of them. He played his 15 years. He played hard. He played passionate. Then he kind of disappeared. He's kind of really been off the grid, off the radar until now. And so for him to kind of show that, being upset like that, it was like, yo, something really messed up must have happened. Anyway, fast forward, he apologizes for that second live. He apologized for calling out his administrator. He apologized for being unprofessional. He said he's a coach, he's a father, he's a mentor, he's a leader. He apologized. He actually tried to turn a negative into a positive by getting not only the football team, but other athletes across campus to do a campus-wide cleanup. They got trash bags, gloves, little devices to pick up trash all around campus, all around Daytona, all around BCU. And then he's hosting the biggest recruiting weekend probably in years at Bethune-Cookman. 30 student athletes and their families. They're on campus. And he gets the axe on Friday night. Recruiting weekends start on Thursday, Friday. He gets the call Friday night from his athletic director, Reggie Theus. He's put the name out there, not me. He's get the call from Reggie Theus that go ahead and pack up your stuff. And then from what I was told, I don't know if he said this publicly, or from what I was told, I think he has said this publicly. He was recently on Roland Martin, and he got the call Friday night and said, you can go ahead and leave like a thief in the night and leave everybody in the dark, and we'll make a formal announcement on Monday. He didn't like that. So on Saturday, he gathers all the families in the current team and everybody that's associated with him into one room and says, I'm going to let y'all know they're not moving forward with my contract because they didn't like the way that I spoke on my Instagram lives. They said I wasn't professional. They wanted me to leave you guys hanging and not tell you until Monday. Well, I'm telling you right now that, in the middle of your recruiting weekend, they're letting me go. And you could have heard a pin drop in that room. I mean, it was so quiet because they were filming the whole thing. And it was surreal. It was something I've never seen before. I've never seen a coach get hired and then 25 days later, without a contract being formally signed, get fired all within a month span. This is the quickest hiring and firing I think I've ever seen in sports since I've been doing it. And I've been doing it for a while.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I watched this happen, and let's start at the beginning. Let's start where we can all agree. Give me a yes if you agree that this is just sad as hell. That this just breaks your heart. Give me a yes in the chat if you're just sad. Like that, I think that's a good place to start so that we can kind of not get caught up in who's right, who's wrong, or picking sides, because there are people that will always pick the HBCU side because we're black. Absolutely. And we assume every HBCU deserves support. But we know that there are issues with HBCUs. A lot of HBCUs have issues. Some they can control, some they can't. But then also you got people that will always take the celebrity side, just because you're famous. And I like the way you played defensive back in the NFL. Anything you say is gold. And I don't believe that either. I'm going to tell you like this. You come to my institution. You come up in the Black Business School. We created an HBCU. We got real faculty, professors, PhDs, lawyers, all that. You come up in the Black Business School and start talking crazy about the Black Business School on Instagram. You ain't going to be here long. You're just not. You're not going to be in my institution, bashing my institution on social media. So that, to me, was when I saw that happen. That's when I knew. I said, there's no way he's going to be able to keep this job, because you kind of you're forcing the institution to do something about you. You're testing the gangster. You're basically saying, I'm going to have you employ me, and I'm going to talk crazy about you in an embarrassing way, and then dare you to do something to me. They're going to do something. And I think, and I was reading up on all this, and let me just tell you like this, I wasn't surprised when Ed was talking about the issues with the HBCUs, with Bethune-Cookman. They have had financial problems since forever. That school,
yeah.
in 2018, the school was put on academic probation. Now, remember, I was on the faculty at Syracuse University. They had plenty of money. When you lose your accreditation, that is a big deal. So they said it says right here that the university is placed on probation by its regional accreditor, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. In the summer of 2018, the accreditor cited failings in multiple areas, including integrity, governing board characteristics, financial resources, financial responsibility, and control of finances. So I'm hearing finances, finances, finances. See, and I want y'all to hear that, because a lot of you think when you come on this channel, you say, well, I thought you were a finance guy. Well, it's all financial. It's all coming down to the money. He's walking around this campus. Ed Reed, you done been in the white man's NFL. They got money to burn because they built their institution. They went and bought the Green Bay Packers 100 years ago for $100 and the Chicago Bears for $50. Now their franchises are worth billions of dollars. The Baltimore Ravens, where Ed Reed shined like crazy, worth billions of dollars. So you're going from white man money to black people money. You're going from powerful institutions to broken institutions. And then what really makes it complex is when they cited why they almost lost their accreditation, it came down to governing board characteristics, aka cronyism. Your board isn't set up properly. Financial resources, that may not be your fault. The state may not be giving you money. You don't have a donor base. Where are you going to get the money to maintain this institution? Then they mention financial responsibility and control of finances. Those two things belong to you. Give me a guess if y'all understand what I'm saying. Financial responsibility, that's your responsibility. Control of financial resources, that's under your control. So that tells me this is a complex thing. Number one, HBCUs don't get the support that they need. They don't get it from the government. They don't get it from their donor base. And also, like Dr. Claude Anderson has said, HBCUs will suffer economically until they start producing more entrepreneurs instead of just producing Negroes that are going to go work for white people. As long as you're producing employees, you will always struggle financially until you do right in a powernomics philosophy. Everything you do is going to fail economically because you're either going to be on the white man's economic nipple or you're going to be sitting around struggling trying to make $1 out of 15 cents because employee graduates do not make the kinds of donations to the institution that will allow you to build a first-class football program. They don't make they don't buy the $100 million buildings and all this stuff. And that's what they're comparing it to. White schools have that. Black schools don't. That's the underlying issue.
And let me speak on that too, Doc. And just from a university perspective, as far as Bethune goes, there recently on Roland Martin's show, he had Ed Reed on, and he also brought on in the chairman of the Bethune-Cookman Alumni Association, the president of the Bethune-Cookman Alumni Association. So, and he talks about the active beef between alumni and the board at Bethune-Cookman. He literally said he is the president of the Alumni Association, and he is actively being sued by the university. He said because of the lack of leadership by the board at Bethune, that the donation percentage went from 12, which is above the national average, to 1%.
Wow.
That's what they came on there and said. It went from 12% alumni, a donation base, to 1%. And you also have to think, Bethune-Cookman is a university with less than 3,000 students. Like, this is not a big school. This is a small school. So you're talking about a university with somewhere between 25 to 2,700 students over the course of 100 years, a university that their students have gone on record, say, as a 100% acceptance rate to only a 33% graduation rate. So you're talking about Bethune-Cookman probably has less than like 40,000 alumni anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so think about that. You're talking about less than 40,000 alumni, between 40 and 50,000 alumni, even if they were donating at that 12%. It's not a lot when you only have 40,000 alumni, when schools like Indiana or whatever have 40,000 current students. You know what I mean? Like it's just not the same. You're comparing apples to oranges, and I think so to go along to my point, yeah, Ed might have came in with the maybe the wrong idea or whatever, but that doesn't take away the fact that there is some sort of lack of leadership. today, and I don't want to timestamp it because I know people watch it after the live broadcast, but students at Bethune-Cookman protested on campus to remove the board. That's how bad they've had board issues, like you said, for at least a decade or longer, decades. So this is the Ed Reed thing is one thing, and you know, you can feel how you want to feel about him getting the job or not. But what it has done, what in having high profile coaches like a Ed Reed shines a light on bigger problems. Right? Like if Ed Reed never gets hired and fired or whatever, maybe we never know about these issues that Bethune-Cookman's going through as a university. Maybe we never know the issues that Bethune-Cookman, the financial restraint, or where's the money going? Because the problem is a lot of people generalize all HBCUs in the same bucket, right? Every HBCU doesn't have the same problem. Yeah, they all have a lack of resources, but every institution is different. Some have lack of resources simply because they've been underfunded by the government. Others have lack of resources because somebody may be stealing the money. And just listening to students and students current, past, and alumni that are well known, and alumni in high positions, and even journalists that have written about Bethune-Cookman for years, it sounds like something else is going down there at Bethune-Cookman, and Ed Reed is just blowing the blowhorn, you know, has the megaphone because he has the platform, unlike others, to kind of say, hey, you know, you guys can feel however you feel about me cursing or me using certain kind of language, but there's something else going on at this school that people aren't talking about. Another thing, just speaking about the resources thing, Edgerrin James, who's another Pro Football Hall of Famer, went to the University of Miami, good friends with Ed Reed, went on Instagram and said, we had multi-millionaires and billionaires ready to sign checks essentially in the mail, with Ed Reed being the head coach of that football team. And now with all of this going through, who knows if those same checks will be made. One of the person he used by name and added him was Shaq. He said, yo, Shaq was ready to write a check. And now, you know, whether those relationships have been severed or not, who knows? Doc, I want to ask you this just based on that statement that Edgerrin James put out. You know, some people were like, hey, the school's not going anywhere. You can still donate. I'm like, yeah, well, how do you feel about that? Should these people with this money still donate to these programs or donate to these universities, even though the person that they were directly donating to, the Ed Reeds or whoever, should they still hand over that money? What do you think about something like that?
Well, remember, blackness is a brand that's bigger than Ed Reed, you know, Boyce Watkins, Jeff Lightsy, or any of us, right? So blackness is the defining issue, right? If you're making a donation, I'm thinking about the kids. I'm not really thinking about a celebrity. Celebrities don't give a damn about none of y'all in this chat. No, they don't care about none of us. So I think that, but I do think that celebrity power can be beneficial for an institution. What I'd be really curious about are what's the barrier that's keeping that money from coming in. You know, there is that is not the first time I have heard about situations where people were ready to write big checks to HBCUs, but they wanted something that was logical. They wanted some accountability. They said, hey, look, we're not just going to give you money so you can go put it in your pocket and do, you know, do some bullshit. We need to know what you're doing with this money. And so in a way, it becomes kind of a tacky process, kind of like when Umar was collecting all that money for his school. And then people were like, well, what are you doing with my money? And he would block them on Facebook. You know, don't be asking me nothing. Don't be asking me nothing. And I had to say something to him. I had to tell him, I said, look, man, if you're taking people's money, then there is an accountability that comes with the transfer of money. I can't just have you donate to something. If I say, hey, give me, or I'm going to go build this thing over here, or I'm going to go do this and do that, I need y'all to donate. And then you have a right to ask me questions and say, well, what are we donating to? Can you show us what you're building? Show us the board, show us something, some kind of progress. and so I don't know where it all comes from, right? You know, let's just say this. Bethune-Cookman has a very rich history. I mean, it was named after Mary McLeod Bethune, one of the great historical figures, you know, of all time. And they've educated just thousands and thousands of extraordinary people that have gone on to do amazing things. And they've done this on a shoestring budget. But there must be that fundamental question asked at some point: what is wrong with our HBCUs? And on one hand, you might say it's because nobody's giving money. But on the other hand, you might say, well, what's really happening? Who's controlling that money? And why are these weird things happening? Because, you know, Bethune-Cookman's been sued. One of the reasons they almost lost their accreditation is because they had so many lawsuits against them one of which had to do with a $306 million construction project where they were getting all these buildings built. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the former president was the defendant in the lawsuit, that they were suing him over some sort of corruption related to this construction project. Now, who did what, nobody knows. But I think giving the HBCUs is just good in general. But if you don't think your money's actually going to go toward the cause that you believe it is, I can understand why people would hold back. And I'd really love to know what's going on with the alumni, and why are the alumni fighting the board, and and what is going on? What's the dynamic there? Why is the board kind of holding out? They should be fulfilling the wishes of the alumni. I don't understand why that will be such an issue. So it just seems complex. I think you're muted, Jeff.
And like you said, at the end of the day, it's all detrimental to the kids, right? It's all detrimental to the student body. It's all detrimental to the future leaders of our country. It's all detrimental to the young students that are there that want a high quality education, that want to attend an HBCU, and some of them that want to play sports, right? Like the sports population at Bethune-Cookman is very small. It's a very small population altogether. It's a school less than 3,000 students. But we're talking about the sports population is even smaller. It just so happened that sports can be a recruiting base as far as getting new students, and it can be a resource resource revenue, right? Like it can be a resource avenue for the university as well. And that's something that we all know. We've literally watched this movie before. Ed Reed isn't Deion Sanders, but we just watched what happened at Jackson State with Deion Sanders over the course of the last 2 years. And they had record attendance, record number of revenue, record through the city and through the university as far as academics. They had their freaking enrollment went up. The applications went up. Everything went up. All because they had a celebrity head coach who brought in a ton of resources and a winning football team. Like, all of that helps your school in the end. And don't get me wrong. What Ed did was wrong. I'm not going to act like he was wrong. I'm going to just be honest. I didn't think they was going to fire him. I thought, and here's why I didn't think they was going to fire him. When he made the second live, I said, this is a fireable offense. It was a fireable offense. Don't get it twisted. It was a fireable offense. But then they didn't do it. A day went by. 2 days went by. 3 days went by. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if they ain't fired him after 3 days, they ain't going to do it. Like, if you're going to let go of somebody, like if somebody comes out and they work for Boyce Watkins, they come out and say, Boyce Watkins is an MFer. And Ed used some strong language now. He used some strong language. And like I said, it was a fireable offense. But then you wait a day, 2 days, 3 days, and a week goes by. I'm like, oh, well, they must have chopped it up. They must have got it right. The guy apologized publicly. The person came out and did some community service work or whatever to improve the work they did for Boyce Watkins or whatever. I'm like, oh, you're going to keep him around. And then I fire him a week later when they're hosting the biggest recruiting weekend in the school in years at the school. Well, I'm thinking it's not going to happen. And to do it in the fashion that they did it, wasn't a fan of it. To do it at the timing that they did it, wasn't a fan of it. And now you probably, with the protests from the students, with the alumni base calling you out and getting all of this media attention, both local and nationally, now you might have shined a light on some scabs you probably didn't want to shine light on, because now you have alumni bases who have platforms now because of what happened with Ed Reed that are willing to speak out about the mismanagement and misappropriation of funds or whatever's going on at Bethune-Cookman. That ain't what you want when you're in university. That is not what you want. Listen to some of the conditions, though, Doc. This is pretty baffling. I'm not gonna lie to you. They a bunch of players have been talking, and one of the most disgusting things that I've heard from a player in regards to we're just talking football now. He said during the season last year, this is how bad it got for Bethune-Cookman. During the season last year, their players were literally sharing helmets. They were now, I don't know if the audience has played much football, but in football, you sweat, you snot, sometimes you're bleeding, you got all that stuff. We just went through a global pandemic, so we know how the spread of germs happens. And there were players sharing helmets actively. This is what a player has come out and said in the last few days. That's how punitive the conditions are at Bethune, where they're sharing helmets during the season, during games. Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. and you can't run from that. You can't run from. You got players come out saying stuff like that. Now that that was rough when I heard that one.
Well, everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsy Jr. from the Black Boss channel and also Victory Formation Sports. We're talking about Bethune-Cookman letting go of Ed Reed. Ed Reed was their new football coach, apparently, and he's not the football coach anymore. But it's getting controversial, and we're trying to break this down, trying to get to the bottom of it. If you could do me a favor, we're building independent Black-owned media, so if you could take 1 second, please hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. Also hit the notification bell. And also Thursday night in the Black Business School, we're doing a session on how I'm going to show you guys how I make money selling stock options. So if you have an interest in that, feel free to join us Thursday night. You can go to boycewatkins.com. The link is right there. You can join us for free. And also, if you want to market on this channel, just go to drboycefinance.com. So if you have a Black-owned business and you want people to know about your business, please go to drboycefinance.com. Also, Jeff, I'm going to put Jeff's information up here so you can follow him as well. All right, so let's dig into this. So you mentioned that your boy Ed Reed was on Roland Martin's show. And I'm going to do something I have never done before, which is to show a clip from the Roland Martin show on my platform. Because Roland's a little saucy and a little bitchy, and he's a little bit of a puppet for the Democrats. But one thing Roland and I have in common is we both care about HBCUs. So Ed Reed was on the show, so I'm gonna share a little clip. And then I want y'all to give me your honest assessment of this clip. Give me like one sentence after we're done. This is your assignment, everybody. After you watch this little short clip of Ed Reed on Roland Show, I want you to put in a sentence that describes what you're noticing and observing about this clip. You ready? Can y'all do it for me? Give me a yes if everybody understands the assignment. All right, so here we go. I'm going to pop this clip up here. Hopefully everybody can hear it. Here we go.
Bro, have other HBCUs reached out to y'all?
We've been in contact with other head coaches from HBCU.
I turned down the Jackson State job to come here, Roland Martin. Jackson State Brown called me. Deion Sanders called me himself, man. Gave me.
So everything is that Ed is saying is accurate. There have been other offers before Bethune-Cookman in previous years from other
Grambling.
I'm sorry, bro. From other HBCUs, there's been opportunities for Ed to be a head coach at multiple colleges. This was an opportunity. The location, the campus, everything about Bethune-Cookman was extremely appealing, which led him to ultimately choosing this over the opportunity at other institutions. I came here. I was impressed. We hadn't seen everything, but just the lay of the land, the campus, the location and proximity to the beach. We thought this would be a great opportunity, especially being in Florida, too. Very.
All right. What do y'all think? Is he just a passionate coach? Or y'all think maybe some of that CTE might have set in? Or like what do y'all think is really going on? Let's see. Amen Ministry says he's emotional. That was pretty clear. What did anybody else say? Y'all, let's see. He's very passionate. I used to be like that for my work too, but it's too much. Got to let it go. Okay. Deshaun says both. David said, "Man, that dude crazy." and y'all, I'm gonna tell you, I was watching some of his lives, and he was doing a lot of yelling and screaming, and really. I want to ask my wife, who's a therapist, and she can kind of, do a little bit of an armchair diagnosis. I wonder if she would think that maybe there's something going on in terms of mental health. Now he's got real emotions, but it seems like when you're trying to make your case, you would not have a meltdown while you're on camera. You would state your point, get mad, get passionate, but it almost looked like he was breaking down, right? And so. You wonder what happens, when he's really upset, as a football coach, and he's dealing with the young guys on the field, and he's got the passion for sure. So the word passion definitely comes to mind. But can you be passionate and have controlled passion? Like, can you have rage and manage your rage, or should it be something where you just break down and somebody's got to pat you on the back? You like, I'm sorry, bro. Right? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
It's tough, man. I think there's a time and a place for everything. That's just how I feel about it. And I think that passion that you see from Ed Reed is necessary on the football field. Like to do what he did for a profession, for as long as he did it, for as high a level that he did it, you need that type of passion. That's what you have. Like football, especially when he played. Football's a little different now. You know, we've talked about the game and how it is, and we talk about the physicality of it. But the physicality in football 2023 wasn't the same in football in like 2003 when Ed Reed was playing. You know what I mean? Like the physicality was different, and he was a physical player, and he was a hard-hitting, trash-talking, in-your-face, very intellectual, smart player. So you need that type of passion to accomplish the things on the football field that he accomplished. But like I said, there's a time and a place for everything. And so when you're trying to state your case, essentially you're fighting to get your job back. You're fighting. Your team is fighting. As you've seen, he had a manager or someone that's helping him out, you know, get his thoughts processed and things like that right there on camera fighting. The students on campus are actively fighting. You have a parade of people online are fighting for you. There's a certain level of demeanor and composure that you must have if you realistically want a chance to get that job back, right? These are the people that already asked you. So they don't like you. They don't like you already. They already cut bait. They've already told you hit the road jack and don't come back. They've already did that. You and all your millions, all your resources, get out of here. We don't give a damn. Go. And so when you have a group that's already thinking like that, right? And you're trying to prove that you're the right guy for the job, that you're the right guy to help those kids, that you're going to be able to impact those kids, those students, that campus, that community more than any other person. Got to keep your composure on camera, man. That clip is going to be seen by millions of people. Millions, not thousands, not hundreds. Millions of people are going to see you when you're speaking about other, and not just Bethune, because I think the Bethune cook is the Bethune ship is sailed, but any other potential head coaching job. If they want a reason not to hire Ed Reed, all they're gonna do is pull up that clip. All they're gonna do is and not just that clip. It was an interview, so it's 10, 15 minutes, however long it is. It's a 15-minute interview, and there were other similar outbursts, right? And not to say that they're right for using that, but that will be their ammunition for not hiring you. Right? Because unlike your football credentials, as far as a player, Ed Reed got hella credentials as a player. I mean, like I said, one of the best to ever do it. You know how many football credentials he has as a coach? He's got zero. He's got zero. He's never been a coach at any level, right? He was an assistant receivers coach for Buffalo for 1 year. At Miami for the previous 4 years, he was just a director of player personnel, meaning he helps with recruiting, right? Like you're a glorified guy. You're Ed Reed. You got a gold jacket. You help recruits and say, come to Miami. You can be like Ed Reed, right? Like that's what he was doing in Miami. But as an actual coach, X's and O's, telling people where to be, sending guys to professional football, helping them graduate, et cetera, it's a zero on the resume. And so the only thing that you have on your resume is literally agreeing in principle and getting fired before ever signing a contract 25 days later. That's it. That's the only thing on the Ed Reed head coaching resume. And when you're still trying to prove that you're worthy of leading a group of young, impressionable black men, gotta hold your composure a little better than that, man. That's it. I mean, what would you think, Doc?
Man, I'm trying to imagine it, right? Like I want to give him a fair shot. Because I was a big Ed Reed fan too. I mean, who wasn't? You know, that guy was a bad boy. He played with Ray Lewis, and those guys were just amazing. And then they also had the one brother that they got in trouble with the running back that punched his girlfriend out. And, you know,
Ray Rice. Ray Rice.
Yeah. He played for the Ravens too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, just very talented guys. And I didn't like what happened to Ray Rice. I felt like he should have been given a second chance. I think that 2 years out or something, a year or two out would have been enough. To ban him for life, I thought was incredibly unfair because I do think that there should be redemption space for black men. And I think as black people, we should give each other extra leeway. I think the challenge that I'm having with this is I cannot think of another time where I saw any coach, white or black, act like that and not have people be concerned about it. You know, the craziest coach I ever saw that I could think of was Bobby Knight. And, you know, Bobby Knight, did you ever see the old clips of Bobby Knight back in the day?
Yeah, I have seen. I have seen it. Yeah, I've seen a ton of clips of Bobby Knight.
Yeah, Bobby Knight would just lose his mind and just yell at the players and go ballistic and go crazy. and people gave him a pass because he won some championships and he was a great coach. And then eventually it kind of went too far. You know, he got to where he shoved the player, he threw the chair across the floor, you know, and he did some other things that the public doesn't even know that were just, you know, pretty over the top. And so I think with Ed, if I'm looking at that, I'm really considering the fact. Think about this now. I want y'all to process this. I looked at a study where they said that 99% of all NFL players have brain damage. 99% of them have CTE. And the guy who invented CTE or discovered it is the one who said this. So Ed Reed, as you mentioned, one of the most physical players in the game during a very physical era, taking hits, laying hits on people like crazy. I mean, he was a hard hitter just like Ray Lewis. You don't think that one of the hardest hitting guys on that really tough Baltimore Ravens defense might have took a couple hits to the head? You don't think he cracked helmets with a few guys over the years? And when I saw him kind of breaking down like that, or in fact, I didn't even think it wasn't even that clip that really got me there. I saw the Instagram live. And I said, okay, he's just melting down over the trash, you know. And I said, okay, he ain't gonna last long. He's on here just cussing and screaming and going crazy. I felt a little bit of celebrity privilege kind of happening, right? Because sometimes when celebrities go off and they do stuff in the world of white people, it's like they come back to black people. They come back to the black community like they're doing black people a favor, you know. And sometimes that arrogance can be kind of like up there where, you know, you're mad that Bethune-Cookman can't have facilities that are as good as the University of Miami. Well, I mean, shit, how the hell they gonna do that? They can't do what the University of Miami did. Now I would get to the point where I'd say, look, come on, can we figure out a plan where we can pick up the trash? Can we figure out, well, let's figure out if we can at least get to where they ain't got to share helmets, right? You're right. Yeah. Building institutions is not for the weak. Most great institutions in this country, including Harvard University, started off just like a Bethune-Cookman. They started off with minimal resources, you know, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, trying to rub two nickels together. The only difference is that these other white universities had a 300-400 year head start. You know, these schools like you talked about, I think you mentioned Indiana University and stuff like that. These schools 200-300 years old. So, you know, but go back and look at IU in the first 100 years. It was pretty raggedy too. You know, and and they had state support. They had support from the state government too. You know, so I think, you know, I really hate seeing it, right? And I think the biggest question to me is, if all these celebrities are trying to write checks for HBCUs, why is that not occurring? What's happening within the administration? Like, what are they doing that is keeping them from being able to raise the money that people want to give them? That's what I would want to understand a little bit better, because I still don't get it. You know, you brought it. You know, Ed Reed's connected. Deion Sanders is connected, and I just really think Deion. The reason I was a little upset with Deion leaving Jackson was because I felt like Deion had the right disposition. He had the right demeanor to where I think he could have made himself $100 million staying right there in Jackson State. I think he could have made twice as much money staying right there as he's going to get at Colorado. Why? Well, because you have an international global brand. You have so many different ways you can monetize that brand. You're filling up stadiums everywhere. You got television networks searching you out. I mean, that to me would have made him the ultimate playmaker. Like when I think about a playmaker, man, it's like in basketball, like or somebody who could create his own shot. You know, you don't have to run the offense to him in a certain way. You don't have to set no picks. He just knows how to create it. Like Kobe could create his own shot under any situation. I felt like Deion was a guy, he was an economic playmaker. I felt like he could create his own shot. So for him to go to Colorado, it was almost just sad, because it's like, why do you feel like you got to take the easy way, bro? You're strong enough to do it the hard way and do it in a way that's never been done before.
It was doing it. You got it. It was doing it. That's the thing. That's the thing that would hurt the most. It's like you can sell someone like, yo, we can have an international superstar come to a black college and make that black college the must-see TV every week in college football. He can literally be the most talked about school in the country, up there with Ohio State and USC and all these people with $100 million budgets. Little bitty old Jackson State with a $30,000 budget can be just as talked about, have college game day and all these things. And we saw it, and it was happening, and it was like, oh my God. Like,
Yes.
you could have told me and I could have dreamt about this day, but to actually see it happen, it was like, yo, and just think about it. He did it in 2 years. What would it have been like after 3? What would it have been like after 5? What would it have been like after 10? Like, oh my God. And it wasn't like, and the thing was, what made it to me, what made it even more like digestible is because it was still competitive. He wasn't just going out there beating everybody and then winning the whole big thing and it was boring. He actually lost 2 years in a row in the championship game. Like, he actually lost. So that made it like a story even worth watching still, you know? So I don't know, but I get exactly what you mean because it was because of Colorado. I mean, let's just be honest. Colorado's just another coach. He's just another coach. He's still Deion Sanders. Don't get it twisted. He's still Deion Sanders. I mean, we can't take that away from him. His resume is his resume. But at the end of the day, you know, if they go out there and play where the talent level is the same, if not, your team is down a little bit, and they get on the field against the USCs and the UCLAs and the Washingtons, you're just another coach now. You know, at Jackson State, he was a little more than just a coach. He was a little more than just a coach. But in Colorado, at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. They don't give a damn about all that other stuff. That's just, we got money already. You ain't impressing us with money. Come in there and get some wins. If not, we're going to try to find us another Deion Sanders. You know what I mean? We're going to try to find us another football coach. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Let me ask you a sports question then, Jeff. You think if you give him 2 years, you think he can win in Colorado?
No, I think he can be successful at Colorado. I actually know he's going to be successful at Colorado. But the definition of success at Colorado is different, right? Because Colorado, this is a program with 4 winning seasons in 25 years, right? So, like, yeah, do I think he'll come in and have a winning season and multiple winning seasons? Yeah. Do I think he's going to get we know he's going to get the players. He's Deion Sanders. He's prime time. Of course he's going to get the players, but the competition is stiff. I mean, this is the Pac-12 that had 6 teams in the top 25. It's ain't Jackson State. You're not in Kansas anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's ain't the same. Like, it's a little different, right? You're going to be playing against the Heisman Trophy winner last year. You know, the guy that won a Heisman is right there in the Pac-12. So it's a lot different. But do I think he's going to be successful? Yeah, I think he can have a lot of success. But I think his level of success, it's just me, you know, whatever. I don't see him at Colorado very long. I think he's looking for his next stop. Because when you look at Deion and the way he promotes his brand and promotes even the teams that he's coaching, he promotes play for prime. Not necessarily telling you play for Colorado or, you know, or go Buffs. It's really about come with me and I can take my show on the road. And I think his show will be on the road somewhere south in the next 3 to 5 years or so. That's just my prediction.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna say this. I was mad that Deion left to go to Colorado. It made me mad. I wanted him to stay at Jackson State because I saw what he was creating there. But I realized I want to see him do well at Colorado. Like, I want to watch and see what happens. I think that with the opening of that transfer portal where they're bringing in, you know, these really top players that want to play with him, I feel like that's going to make a difference. You know, I think that he's got something. He's got a special it factor that I think makes a lot of players want to play for him. I think him and his sons are being very innovative in terms of how they're even using social media to.
They're brilliant there. They're brilliant there. They're like the best in the business there. Yeah,
and I just think it's great, and I love watching it. I just really wish it could have been done in the HBCU, but hey, man. You know, the white man wins again, right? Black people invent magic in the bottle. The white man go get his hands on it. He will own all your assets, and he will own your whole entire ass. I'm gonna own your ass and your assets.
Now, I want to ask you this: just from the clips, it's funny though. Just from the clips and the different things you've seen with Ed Reed. If you're let's make the Black Business School have a football team, right? Let's just say the Black Business. Let's say we're hypothetical. You being you're being the chairman, president, founder, whatever of the Black Business School HBCU. Ed Reed's out there, and Ed Reed, you know what it comes with as far as resources, notoriety, attention, but also can come with a bit of losing of the composure publicly. Would you hire Ed Reed as your head coach of your HBCU football team? Why not?
Because I think that, you know, I think intelligent masculinity has to come with an element of discipline. Now, I don't know if that discipline was there. You know, I get it. You know, he's a tough guy. He's a competitor and all that. But when you're dealing with other human beings, you can't just fly off the handle every time something goes wrong and think people are going to want to always work with you. Because think about it. What if every single administrator at Bethune-Cookman was just like Ed? Will get on every time something went wrong in a meeting, they get on Instagram cussing. What the fuck is this? These motherfuckers, these goddamn, right? What if the president of the university did that, and the vice president did that, and everybody just said it's my right to go off. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about teaching biology class. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna cuss everybody out because we ain't got enough books, or because students failed their tests, or because I got mad at a faculty meeting. You can't do that and be able to work with other people. If you look at the great coaches that are in the game, black, white, otherwise, most of these coaches are able to connect and relate to other people. You know, you're dealing with the management of human beings. You got to deal with different personalities. You got to be able to keep your cool. And I feel like it'd be different if he lost it after he'd been there for a year and won some games and had a contract. That's the other piece, right? The man, you ain't even got a contract, right? That's like going on a date. That's like going on a date with a girl that looks good, and you thinking about going on a second date, and she shows her ass on the first date. Well, you're not gonna get to be engaged and get married because you didn't even take your time. Like, hide your crazy until the time is right. Like, bring your crazy out after the wedding, right? He didn't even wait. He did that before he got the contract. So I just don't know if any other way they could have handled this, especially without them looking like punks. You know, when you get, when you're in a leadership role and you've got somebody on your team that is going on social media bashing the institution and calling you names and all this other stuff, you have to act. You have to act. You can't just sit there and allow them to just do whatever and then say, "Oh yeah, I'm still going to send him his paycheck. He's still a part of the school." No, you know, I'm sure people try to talk to him behind closed doors. And another thing too is, you know, he's probably an intimidating dude. I mean, he was one of the baddest dudes in the NFL, you know. So you never know, man. If he goes off, you might be like, man, is he gonna go and knock somebody out? Like, and then again, that's another liability for the institution. You just don't know. So I just don't. I wish he could have handled it in a way where he was like, I'm outraged that HBCUs don't have the resources we have. Because I'm outraged, here's how we're going to fix it. That to me is how you set up a game plan. You don't attack anybody. You attack the problem, you know? And that's something that, and really that's something actually I learned from my wife and all the therapy books she has, is that even whether you're talking about a business relationship, a friendship, a marriage, or any situation, the common denominator, when you get pissed off about a problem, the question is, like, if you and I had a disagreement, Jeff, there's one way I can approach is I can say, we got a problem and the problem is you, right? Well, that's gonna make you mad. It's gonna hurt you. And I'm like, Jeff, you need to stop doing this and stop doing that. You an asshole. You ain't shit, right? And you're gonna start feeling some kind of way. But if I say, you know what, Jeff, we got this problem over here, and me and you are teammates, we're gonna work together and talk it out so we can figure out how to attack this problem together. And we're gonna attack with passion, right? But we're gonna attack the problem, not each other. That's an important part of managing your relationships, whether it's with your teammates, your boss, or whatever. Think about it. Pay attention. Think about how many times teammates start falling out when the team starts losing, right? The problem is that you're losing, and then you're like, well, it's because of the defense.
It's his fault. Yeah, it's their fault. Yeah, you start finger pointing. Yeah,
right. A team like that will never win. You'll never win like that. Right? You got to find a way to separate the problem from the people and say, look, we in this together. Let's figure this out. If you can't come up with that mindset, then the team's going to break up. It's going to be over. So
absolutely.
So go ahead, man. I'm going to let you get the last word, man. So by the way, everybody, I want you to know I'm talking to Jeff Lightsy Jr. We're talking about Ed Reed, Bethune-Cookman. He was just fired from Bethune-Cookman as the football coach. And we kind of talk about the state of HBCUs and sports and everything else and all the money and economics behind it. I want everybody to know you can follow Jeff at JLightsy7. He's super smart. He's really, really big on sports. He's one of the biggest guys out here covering HBCU sports. So everybody follow him so we can support our HBCUs. So Jeff is the guy, and he just knows all the sports. So if you're into that kind of thing, follow Jeff. He's also at the blackbosschannel.com. And also, I want to remind everybody, on Thursday in the Black Business School, I'm doing an event on stock options on Thursday. So if you have an interest in getting introduced to stock options, you can join us for free. Just go to boycewatkins.com. We also have financial flashcards for kids. We have a lot of fun stuff that we're doing in the Black Business School because we're into building wealth, building family, and building institutional wealth, which we believe would really help HBCUs. And that leads to my final point on this, man, Jeff, is that when I looked at Bethune-Cookman, I think that their endowment is maybe like $28 million or something, which is literally like a couple of nickels for a university. Most people can't even run a university with that amount of money. And and one of their bigger problems came up with some sort of construction deal that somebody made, that there was a $300 million deal, and apparently they overpaid or something happened. And next thing you know, the former president got sued, and it just seems like a big mess, man. So what's really going on in terms of what you think might make the situation for HBCUs better? Because everybody's rooting for HBCUs. We just don't understand what the issue is.
Yeah, it's a multitude of issues. Obviously, you got it's the institutionalized racism that takes place, right? There's underfundment in the B's, the billions of dollars that it was supposed to be going to HBCUs and different institutions across the country, that the money never got there. Forbes put out a list of the underfundment of different HBCUs across the country, and the total was over $12 billion. Like between the different schools across the country. So that's part of the problem. The other part, there are some, some shiesty deals going on. And it sounds like in the case of Bethune-Cookman, there's a shiesty board of trustees that just isn't. I mean, this is being called out by the alumni of the school. This is current students, current football players, active students, and also the president of the Alumni Association also said he's even currently being sued by the university. Anytime anybody speaks out about what's taking place at Bethune-Cookman, whether it's an alumni, current student, or whatever, they all get cease and desist letters. That was another thing, or they get their jobs threatened wherever they're currently at. So that is another problem that is specific to Bethune. I know that's taking place. I know I'd ask you if you would hire Ed Reed as a head coach of the Black Business School HBCU football team, and you said no, and you stated your reasons. I do hope, this is just me maybe being optimistic, but I do hope Ed Reed gets an opportunity to lead a program. I do think he can be passionate sometimes in inappropriate moments, but I think you need that. I do think he's a good leader of young men. I've talked to people who know Ed personally, and all they speak is high remarks of Ed. You have never found a teammate of Ed Reed that had anything bad to say about him. I think he does have a couple of trigger points. His passion about the game, his passion about students, and ironically, his passion about trash. Like it sounds crazy, but Ed is someone that even during his playing days would get on his teammates if they left their tape on the floor in the locker room. Now, these are multimillionaires, right? These are people who actually have people that are paid to clean up behind them. And Ed would get on their behinds about leaving trash. And so seeing something like seeing the trash and whatever the amount that trash was at Bethune, I think may have triggered him in some kind of way. And I think that's why he got so passionate about the way he said things on his live. I think he should have took a deep breath, maybe ran a couple laps around the track or something before he hopped on Instagram Live. Pause before you hit send is what they always used to say. But I do think he is someone that can lead a program. I think he is someone that has a lot to offer a program, specifically an HBCU program. A lot of people in HBCU spaces don't like the former Hall of Fame coaches just jumping to the front of the line and becoming head coaches instead of going the more traditional route. They're like, oh, you weren't a grad assistant and then, assistant coach, a position coach, a coordinator, then a head coach. You just were Ed Reed and then head coach, right? But I'm not mad at that. I actually kind of like it because I think they offer a different perspective. They kind of offer a different mindset. And not to say that all HBCU people are like this. Don't get me wrong. I don't want them to come bite off my head. But what I will say is there is some at some institutions kind of a go along, get along, like kind of like this is how we always done it. This is how we always done things. Kind of mindset of some of these institutions, and bringing in an outsider who has had great financial success, great business success, knows how good business works into an institution that maybe or may not have been always the same old, isn't a bad thing. Because they can spot errors. If you drop Dr. Boyce Watkins in a failing business, well, he'll be able to quickly point out why this business is failing. If you drop some of these people who are highly successful into businesses that may or may not be successful, or that are somewhat success or operating at a 3 level of success when they could be operating at a 9 or a 10, they'll be able to help those things. And I think people like Ed Reed are able to do those things.
Well, you know what's funny is that you mentioned earlier though that Reed has success as a player, not
as a player. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
I would say that.
And one of the critiques that William Roden wrote the book $40 Million Slave, is he said, maybe instead of chasing celebrities who would draw a lot of attention and a big Instagram following to your school, there are plenty of NFL assistant coaches out there, college football assistants who've been actually coaching and managing players for 10, 20 years who are looking for a head coaching job. And you mentioned the idea that a guy from the NFL can just jump to the front of the line because he has athletic ability that you never had. But and that's almost reminds me of like how black actors start getting upset because all the rappers will come in and take the good acting roles. The rappers ain't never been trained to act in nothing, right? But and so to some extent, it's we know why they would jump to the front of the line, because they draw attention. And
Absolutely.
so really, I kind of agree with what Roden said, that you got to think about when you take a guy like a Reed with no coaching experience, put him at the front of the line, you're passing up all these other coaches that have paid their dues. You got a lot of good coaches out there that maybe they couldn't run the 40-yard dash in 4.3, but they understand how to identify a guy who can. They understand how to put together, the right type of team, the right type of offensive and defensive line and all that stuff. Why not look into those guys? And they understand the politics of coaching, right? And so I don't know, man. I think, and I'm gonna read the statement here from Bethune-Cookman when they let Reed go, just out of fairness to the university, or fairness to everybody, really. I'm not really trying to pick sides here. Bethune-Cookman basically said, let's see here. Hold on, let me expand this. Bethune-Cookman University has announced that it has decided to not proceed with contract negotiations with Ed Reed to become the next head football coach at BCU. After undergoing a detailed assessment and review of the state of our football program, we have determined that it is in the best interest of our university athletics program and football student athletes to reopen the search and identify the next leader of the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats football team. While we appreciate the initial interest in our football program displayed by Mr. Reed during the course of recent weeks, we are also mindful of the qualities and attributes that must be exhibited by our institutional personnel during what have been uniquely challenging times for our campus as we recover from the impact of 2 hurricanes during the past fall semester. Bethune-Cookman University was founded with core guiding principles centered around integrity, accountability, and mutual respect for others. That's big. These guiding principles have and will continue to weigh heavily in all of our decisions that impact our university. We remain steadfast and committed to building a championship caliber football program that excels on the field, inside the classroom, within our local community. Our university community has placed the utmost trust and faith in us to continue to advance our institution, and we will continue to strive to live up to the high standards that have been set for individuals, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so they basically said that they're that part about mutual respect. I think that comment about mutual respect, I would underline that, because I think that's what they're saying. They say, man, you came up here and you disrespected us, Yeah. And I think that is the issue. That's the challenge, man. And I hate it. It makes me sad. And Gerald says we should use my platform to raise $100,000 for Bethune-Cookman. You know what? I would do that, but honestly, we have an institution right here. The Black Business School has PhDs. We have therapists, we have attorneys, we have the first ever Black financial therapy department. I honestly don't believe in the overhead structure of HBCUs. I think a lot of money gets wasted. I think that we live in a new era. Most institutions, I don't know if y'all noticed, but most private universities will not be in business in 10 years. Most private universities will not be able to afford to charge $100,000 for a bachelor's degree. We don't do that in the Black Business School, and we educate our students at a very high level. Also, Black people don't need to just learn how to go get jobs. We have to learn how to build businesses. We have to learn how to reclaim our communities. We have to learn how to buy real estate. So that's where all my wealth is going. I want everybody to know this. 80% of my net worth when I die is going to the board of trustees at the Black Business School. I want to make that clear. So don't ever say I don't donate to an HBCU. I went out and created one, and I'm going to give my family wealth to that institution to continue the legacy. So that's what we're doing over here. So no disrespect to the HBCUs and what they're trying to do. I just don't know how you can run an institution that has $100 million worth of bills every year. It seems very daunting, especially given that you got to keep going back to them white folks for money. The corporations ain't giving you the money you deserve. The celebrities aren't supporting you. The alumni base isn't really that strong. It seems like most HBCUs are barely getting by. We've been able to run our institute and really reach 1 million Black people a week. We've taught over 10 million Black people how to invest in the stock market. Like, that's a big deal. And we did that on a shoestring budget because we used technology and scaling and the kind of business tactics that I think are more appropriate for a community that lacks the capital infrastructure necessary to build these billion-dollar institutions. We're not out here trying to be white. We're trying to be 100% Black. And when you're trying to build a Black institution the same way the white institution down the street is run, you're always going to find yourself deficient of resources because you're spending $10 where you could have just spent $1. And that's one of the things I truly believe. And that's just my 2 cents on that. So I want to say thank you, Jeff, for your time, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Always, Doc. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on, and I can't wait to see how this stuff plays out. I don't think this will be the last. This will not be the last day Bethune-Cookman is in the news. This Bethune-Cookman, this is an ongoing situation, and this is something that people are going to be following, including myself, very, very closely moving forward. And even with Ed Reed, whatever happens with him, I don't think he'll end up back at Bethune-Cookman. That's just my thoughts. But I do think someone will take a chance on Ed Reed. I don't know who that someone is, but I do think another university, I think another institution. And some people will say we'll be desperate enough, but whatever. I think Ed Reed will come with some things, good and bad, but I think mostly good, that'll benefit an institution. I do think he can be a successful football coach, and I can't wait to see it, man. I'm rooting for Ed Reed. I do think his passion was displaced in a couple of moments, but I do think he could be a great leader of men. That's just my opinion.
Well, I'll say this: I'm willing to bet you 5 nickels that Reed will not coach in any HBCU. I just believe that. And I'm not saying it doesn't mean he doesn't deserve it. He does deserve it. He's good. I mean, I'm sure he's good. He's a great player. I don't know if he's a great coach, but also I saw that meltdown on the Roland Martin show, and I know that people that just do business, I think they'd be very concerned about what that looks like. You know, if that is some CTE showing up, or if that's a mental health issue. He might just be a passionate guy, but I know a lot of passionate guys, very passionate. Michael Jordan was a very passionate guy. He was a champion at the highest level, but Michael Jordan kept his composure. Kobe kept his composure, right? You wouldn't see Michael just kind of melt down on an interview like that. And I really kind of think that we have to sort of think through that thin line between passion and a little too much passion going overboard. Right. But that's my 2 cents. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Jeff Lightsy Jr. You can follow Jeff at JLightsy7 on Twitter and Instagram. Jeff Lightsy Jr. is the founder of Victory Formation Sports. He follows HBCU sports extremely close. He's a Black businessman. He's building institutions. He's doing his thing. He's also on the blackballschannel.com if you want to check that out. And also, if you want to market on this platform, if you ever want to market your Black-owned business, like I said, we reach 1 million Black people a week. We did this ourselves. We built this ourselves. Just go to drboycefinance.com, and I will shout out your business myself. So feel free to go take a look at that. All right, guys. Well, have a good day. God bless you, and thank you all for listening. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care now. Peace.